and this is the Daily Signal for June 25th, 2025. Breaking overnight, critical developments that will shape your day. Here are today's top 10 stories. Trump shocks NATO summit, demands 5% defense spending, questions mutual defense guarantee, Brazilian tourist dead after falling from Indonesian volcano, ridge recovery complete, Israel pulls back from major Iran strikes after direct Trump pressure, ceasefire holds, Iran's Pezeshkian issues formal regret to Qatar's Emir over escalating tensions, UN condemns Gaza death trap, dozens killed in Israeli fire amid humanitarian crisis, exclusive assessment. First 12 days of Israeli nuclear strikes cause major damage to Iran. Zelensky desperately seeks NATO guarantees, a crucial Trump meeting. Approaches Israeli strike damages Tehran's not aureus. Evan prison families report chaos. China shifts to cautious diplomacy. As Iran-Israel war threatens regional stability, Russian attacks kill dozens of Ukrainians as NATO allies gather for emergency summit. Now let's dive into each story. Breaking from The Hague, President Trump just delivered the most shocking demand in NATO's 76-year history. He's pushing member nations to quintuple their defense spending from 2% to 5% of GDP. That's unprecedented. Here's what happened. At yesterday's emergency NATO summit, Trump not only demanded this massive spending increase, but also signaled he might not honor Article 5, NATO's sacred mutual defense promise. When pressed by reporters, Trump said he's reconsidering America's obligations based on members' contributions. European allies are scrambling. Spain requested exemptions, the UK wants delayed timelines, and smaller nations are calling it economically impossible. But here's the critical detail. Trump gave them until January 2026 to comply or face alternative arrangements. Why this matters to you. NATO has kept global peace since 1949. If America steps back from its security guarantees, it could trigger conflicts worldwide and crash global markets. This isn't just European news. It affects every American's security. Tragedy in Indonesia. A Brazilian tourist is dead after falling from an active volcano ridge. Indonesian rescue teams recovered the body after a dangerous 18-hour operation on Mount Merapi. The victim was part of a growing trend, extreme volcano tourism. These sites attract thousands of thrill-seekers monthly, but safety regulations are virtually non-existent. Local authorities report 3 similar deaths this year alone. Here's what's concerning. Indonesia has 130 active volcanoes, and tourism operators often ignore basic safety protocols to maximize profits. The victim wasn't wearing proper safety gear and bypassed warning barriers. This connects to a broader issue. Adventure tourism deaths are spiking globally as social media drives people to increasingly dangerous locations for content. Major development in the Middle East. Israel has backed away from launching heavier strikes on Iran after direct pressure from President Trump. This decision came just 48 hours after the U.S. conducted its own airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Behind the scenes, Trump personally called Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and warned that further escalation could destabilize the entire region. Israel had prepared a massive retaliation package targeting Iran's oil infrastructure and military command centers. The ceasefire is holding, but barely. Iran has moved additional missile systems closer to Israel's border, and both nations maintain high alert status. Intelligence sources report Iran is rapidly repairing damaged nuclear facilities. Why this matters. Oil prices dropped 8% overnight on news of the de-escalation, but any renewed fighting could spike energy costs globally and trigger recession fears. Iran's President Pezeshkian has issued a formal expression of regret to Qatar's emir, a rare diplomatic gesture amid the Iran-Israel crisis. This isn't just protocol. It signals Iran desperately needs Qatar's mediation. Qatar hosts the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East and maintains strong ties with Iran. By apologizing to Qatar, Iran is essentially asking them to help prevent further escalation with Washington. The timing is crucial. This came just hours before Trump's NATO meetings, suggesting coordinated diplomatic pressure. Qatar's foreign minister is now shuttling between Tehran, Washington, and Tel Aviv, trying to broker a broader ceasefire. The United Nations issued its strongest condemnation yet of Gaza's humanitarian crisis, calling aid distribution zones a death trap. Dozens of civilians were killed by Israeli fire while attempting to collect food and medical supplies. Here's the devastating reality. Aid trucks can only enter Gaza through 3 heavily monitored checkpoints. When desperate families rush to collect supplies, overcrowding creates chaos. Israeli forces, citing security concerns, have opened fire multiple times this week. UN officials report that children make up 60% of recent casualties at aid distribution points. Food supplies are running critically low, with families surviving on 1 meal per day. Medical facilities have completely run out of anesthesia for surgeries. The international response. Several European nations are threatening to suspend military aid to Israel unless civilian protection improves immediately. Exclusive intelligence assessment reveals the scope of Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities over the past 12 days. The damage is extensive, but not decisive. Key findings. Israel successfully destroyed 3 uranium enrichment centrifuges and damaged 2 research facilities. However, Iran's nuclear program operates across dozens of sites, many underground and heavily fortified. The most significant hit was Iran's Fordow facility, buried 250 feet underground. Israeli bunker buster bombs penetrated the complex but didn't destroy the main enrichment chambers. Iran has already begun repairs using backup equipment. Here's what experts aren't telling you. Iran actually accelerated uranium enrichment at undamaged sites during the attacks, potentially advancing their nuclear timeline. This strategy of striking back through increased production could backfire spectacularly. Intelligence sources estimate Iran could have weapons-grade material within 8 to 12 months if current production continues. Ukrainian President Zelensky is making a desperate push for NATO security guarantees as he prepares for a crucial meeting with President Trump. Ukraine's survival may depend on this conversation. Here's Zelensky's challenge. Trump has publicly questioned why America should defend Ukraine, while Russian forces continue gaining territory daily. Ukrainian casualties have reached 50,000 this month alone, the highest since the war began. Behind closed doors, Zelensky is offering Trump a deal: exclusive access to Ukraine's massive lithium deposits worth over $500 billion in exchange for NATO membership or similar security guarantees. These deposits are crucial for electric vehicle batteries. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Ukraine loses Western support, experts predict complete Russian occupation within 6 months. That would put Russian forces directly on NATO's border and potentially trigger the alliance's first-ever Article 5 response. An Israeli airstrike has damaged Tehran's notorious Evin prison, creating chaos for thousands of families with imprisoned relatives. This isn't just any prison. It houses Iran's most prominent political dissidents and foreign nationals. Families are reporting they can't contact imprisoned loved ones. Communication has been completely cut off, and Iranian authorities refuse to confirm casualties or release prisoner status updates. Here's why this matters globally. Evin Prison holds several American and European citizens detained on espionage charges. Their governments are demanding immediate proof of life and threatening emergency diplomatic responses. The strike appears to have damaged the prison's administrative wing, not the cell blocks directly, but the psychological impact on Iran's population is enormous. China is dramatically shifting its approach to the Iran-Israel conflict, moving from quiet support of Iran to active diplomatic intervention. This represents a major change in Beijing's Middle East strategy. Beijing's calculation: a wider Middle East war would devastate China's Belt and Road Initiative investments across the region and spike oil prices just as China's economy is recovering. Chinese officials have reached out to both Washington and Tehran, offering mediation services. Here's the surprising development. China has quietly reduced oil purchases from Iran by 15% this month, sending a clear economic signal to Tehran. This is Beijing's way of pressuring Iran without public confrontation. The long-term implications are huge. If China successfully mediates this crisis, it positions itself as a major global peacemaker and challenges America's traditional Middle East influence. Russian forces killed dozens of Ukrainian civilians overnight in coordinated strikes across 5 cities, the deadliest day in weeks. This escalation comes as NATO allies gather for emergency talks in The Hague. The attacks targeted civilian infrastructure, power plants, water treatment facilities, and shopping centers. In Kharkiv alone, 23 civilians died when missiles hit a busy market district during morning rush hour. Here's Putin's strategy. He's demonstrating that NATO summits and Western support won't protect Ukrainian civilians. Each major NATO meeting is followed by intensified Russian attacks, a clear pattern of psychological warfare. The numbers are staggering. Russia launched 89 missiles and drones in 24 hours, the highest single-day count since March. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted only 34, showing their systems are overwhelmed. NATO's response. Emergency weapons shipments are already en route, including advanced air defense systems promised for months but delayed by bureaucracy. But here's the problem. These weapons won't arrive for weeks while Ukrainians die daily. 3 critical themes emerge from today's news that will shape the coming weeks. First, alliance fragility. From NATO's crisis over Trump's demands to China's mediation offers, traditional alliances are under unprecedented strain. The post-World War II security structure is being rewritten in real time. Second, Middle East powder keg. The Iran-Israel conflict sits at a dangerous tipping point. Despite temporary de-escalation, Iran continues nuclear advancement while Israel maintains strike capabilities. One miscalculation could ignite regional war. Third, civilian cost of geopolitics. Whether Ukrainian marketplace bombings or Gaza aid distribution chaos, civilian populations are bearing the heaviest price of great power competition. Here's what to watch. Trump's NATO stance will determine alliance survival. Iran's nuclear timeline is accelerating despite strikes. Ukraine's situation grows more desperate daily. The common thread? Traditional diplomatic solutions are failing, leaving military options as increasingly attractive alternatives for world leaders. For the Daily Signal, I'm Remo. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, these global developments affect your daily life in ways you might not realize. Subscribe for tomorrow's critical updates and share this episode with someone who needs to stay informed. The world is changing rapidly. Don't get left behind.